Yeah, g'day. Could I get a medium chocolate shake, please?
Yeah, anything else?
No, that's it.
No worries, please drive forward.
Thank you. E is for embouchure. G'day and welcome back to the A to Z of clarinet. My name's Philip. We have reached E, and E is for embouchure. Now, embouchure is one of the most crucial aspects of beautiful clarinet playing. It's quite literally where the rubber hits the road. The embouchure is our physical connection to the instrument at the point at which the sound is created. So it's pretty important. A lot of us, when we're first taught the clarinet, we're not really taught the importance of a well-formed embouchure. I know that in my first clarinet lesson, my teacher just said, right hand goes there, left hand goes there, roll your bottom lip over your bottom teeth, close your mouth around it, blow the damn thing. Yes, my teacher was in the army band. But I don't really blame my teacher for not teaching me the importance of an embouchure. He had a room full of 13-year-old boys to teach how to play the clarinet in a short space of time. So he had to teach us to set up the instrument, had to teach us to be careful of the reed, all of these things. It really wasn't that important at that point in time. Of course, as we learn more about the clarinet and as we progress through our education, we start to find cracks. We start to, get problems with intonation. Maybe our tone quality never really becomes as beautiful as we imagine it to be. And maybe we even get pain in our bottom lip from biting and things like that. So the importance of a well-formed embouchure kind of comes to us later as we progress through our education. I know a lot of teachers have very firm opinions on exactly how an embouchure should be formed, and they tell their students to form their embouchures exactly the same way they do. There I'm not one of those guys. I have a firm opinion about embouchures, and that is that every embouchure is different. It needs to be, because there should be as many different embouchures as there are people who play clarinets. The physical characteristics of the player need to be put in conjunction with the physical attributes of the setup, the mouthpiece, the reed, the ligature, and the air supply. So all of those things have to work in balance. So what works for some people might not work, or probably won't work for other people. So my opinion is as long as we're conscious of each element of our embouchure and what it does, how it functions to help us form a beautiful sound, as long as we're thinking about those things, then we're on the right track. Hi there, future Philbert here. Looks like I missed a bit of footage. Well, the three elements of a healthy embouchure are the jaw pressure and the angle of the mouthpiece, the bite size, or how much mouthpiece we put in our mouth, and the lip muscles. So now, onward. Gosh, I'm handsome. Now, the first element I'm going to talk about is our jaws and the angle of our mouthpiece into our mouth. Now, the way I like to play the clarinet is very firm pressure from the lips and not very much pressure at all from the jaws. Definitely no biting pressure. We can talk about that in a second. Now, you saw in the opening of this video, I went and got myself a shake from my local fast food place. Well, that feeling of drinking through a straw, go out and get yourself a shake, or you can do it by sucking on your pinky finger, but put your pinky finger in your mouth and suck on it. That feeling of a long chin, that expansion of the inside, the cavity of the inside of your mouth, that's the feeling that I go for when I'm forming my embouchure. I like to think, as encouraged by one of my teachers, I like to think of that point just under my nose and the point at the tip of my chin being as far apart as possible. I know that might be the opposite of what your teacher might say, but give it a try. Just give it a try. Now, the way I like to test the angle of the mouthpiece in my mouth is, I assume that there will be an angle that will be the best, that will, sound the best when I'm playing, and it will make it more easier for me. The way I test that is by starting with the clarinet way out in front, and then slowly bringing it down while playing and just hearing the improvement of the sound. Let's give that a try. Right, so you probably noticed that I paused in the middle there when I found the sweet spot. When I had the clarinet further out, playing that open G, the sound was really stuffy, completely unfocused, and had no core whatsoever. But as I brought it down, that the pressure of the clarinet mouthpiece pushing down onto my bottom jaw, not the other way around, the pressure pushing down onto my bottom lip, that brought the pitch up, and it really added some focus to the sound. Now, I did pause. As I went in further, the sound became brittle and it became sharp. I'm not sure if you heard that on the recording. I'll have a listen to it in a minute. But the sound got brittle and it felt very uncomfortable for me. Now, I mentioned that the mouthpiece was coming down onto my lip. So this is where I want to talk about the fulcrum of the bottom lip, of your bottom teeth. Now, rather than using our jaws to bite onto the clarinet, I'd love for you to think about your top teeth working as an opposing movement to the mouthpiece, if that makes sense. So your top teeth are there on top of the mouthpiece. We'll talk about the placement of those in a second. And the reed is actually pushing down on your bottom lip and your bottom teeth. If you think about that, you can almost even think about pushing forward with your left hand as well, so that you're kind of pushing up against your top teeth, and that sort of brings the clarinet down to provide that pressure from your bottom teeth without using that biting force and squeezing off the reed so it doesn't vibrate anymore. So speaking of the reed vibrating, we want to talk about your teeth placement and where they should be. Now, we know that we're going to have our teeth on top of the mouthpiece. How far in do you actually have your teeth? Well, it's quite simple. What you want to try is looking at the aperture between your reed and your mouthpiece. There is a curve on the lay of your mouthpiece. Find the point at which that curve meets the reed and start there. Start by putting the firmest part of your bottom lip and bottom teeth where the mouthpiece meets the reed. Top teeth will just go in a comfortable position. Now, that might not feel comfortable, but it might work for you. Remember, the mouthpiece and the reed combination, they have a say too in what your embouchure should be. It shouldn't just be whatever you think you should do with your mouth. So give that a try. If the sound is fuzzy and unfocused or strained, then you haven't got enough mouthpiece in your mouth. If the sound is bright and raucous and brittle, then you have too much mouthpiece in your mouth. Here's some examples. In both of those examples, we did not get a good sound at all because the reed wasn't able to vibrate properly. Now that brings us to lips. And this is probably the most contentious point because a lot of people have very firm opinions about how your lips should be. There are three major muscles that go along with your embouchure. That is the complex muscle that goes all the way around your lips, the orbicularis oris. Then we have the muscle that pulls down on your chin to flatten out that space between the middle of your bottom lip and the point of your chin. That's called the mentalis. And then we have the magic embouchure muscles, and these are the little muscles that go diagonally on either side of the middle of your chin from the squishy part there in your bottom lip down diagonally that way. And they are called the depressor labii inferioris. Now, it's a bit difficult to see those muscles in action because the beard, but maybe if I put my fingers on my chin there, you might be able to see them move. There you go. So those muscles are incredibly important. This is where people like to argue about the embouchure. Now, my school of playing, the way I like to think about my embouchure, I like to think of my corners being active inward. I like to try and tighten the entirety of my orbicularis oris so that it's like a drawstring bag, basically, or like a rubber band around my mouthpiece. There are plenty of players who I respect deeply who think the opposite. Some people think of smiling. Now, for me, on my body, on my mouth, the way my face is shaped, if I am to pull those corners of my mouth out or back in a smile, I'm placing a lot of pressure up and down on the embouchure. I get a lot of air escaping out of the top lip of my mouth, of my embouchure. But that said, you know, one of my colleagues who I've sat next to many times over the last couple of decades and who I respect greatly, she is a smiler. And she sounds incredible. Who am I to say that my colleague doesn't sound good or is using the wrong kind of embouchure? That's not my business. So there are people who smile and there are people who think inwards. The important thing, the thing that we all have in common, and indeed the thing that every great embouchure has in common, is that we think about it. Every muscle plays a role in supporting the embouchure, in creating a seal around the mouthpiece, and creating a firm and flexible platform for the reed to vibrate. So to check whether or not you're doing the right thing with your lips, well, what do? You want some kind of exercise that's going to test the flexibility and the intonation. I use 2 exercises for this. Now, the first one checks the intonation. The intonation is going to go wrong if we have too much or too little jaw pressure compared to the pressure that we're supplying from our lips. So that could be not enough jaw pressure and too much lip pressure, or it could be not enough lip pressure and too much jaw pressure. Either way, the intonation in this next exercise is not going to work. So firstly, I want you to play an A flat in the clarion register. And that pitch should be the same as taking off our mouthpiece and barrel and playing on that. There we go. I'm going to simulate a bad embouchure and I'm going to play the A flat again for you, and then I'm going to use not enough lip pressure and too much jaw pressure. You listen to the sound. You hear it? It's sharper and the sound is really brittle. Now I'm going to do the opposite. That was too much lip and not enough jaw. So I'm sure you heard the difference that time. So that's just a quick check you can do to make sure that your intonation is right. Your lips are probably in the ballpark. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the flexibility. And the flexibility means that we want to be able to play across all registers with a beauty of tone without having to change anything in our embouchure. Now, we make little changes here and there just to improve things and to make some of the leaps easier and that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we want to primarily have a flexible embouchure that allows us to play in every register. And for that, I do this exercise. Nice little embarrassing mistake there. But I think you get the idea. We want to be able to go from clarion G to open G to Chalumeau G using the same embouchure without making any adjustments. If we can do that, then we have flexibility. Now, does that flexibility give us beauty of tone? No. It's part of the combination of things that gives us a beautiful sound. So just because you're flexible doesn't mean that's the best sound that you can make, but it's a step in the right direction. Now, finally, if you're anything like me, sometimes you have a weakness. I have a weakness in my top lip, and that forces air to escape when I'm playing, especially if I've been playing for a long time. I get tired and my top lip starts to curl up. Now, to strengthen the orbicularis oris, there is an incredible exercise by my teacher and dear friend Michael Lowenstern, and there's a link to that video there. Somewhere up there, there's a link to that video where Mike and his daughter Ariel talk about that exercise. So that's it. I believe that every embouchure is the same, or every great embouchure is the same, in that every great embouchure takes into account the different factors and the balance of those factors into the creation of a beautiful sound that is flexible, it is in tune, it allows ease of playing, and all of those wonderful things. So whether or not you have a teacher who has very firm opinions on your embouchure, or if you're a teacher that only teaches things one way, maybe we could think a bit more about trying new things and regularly checking in with our embouchure to make sure it's working to the best of our potential. That's it for E. There won't be a video next week, so I'm taking a little break, but we'll be coming back with F in a couple of weeks' time. And yeah, in the meantime, take care and I'll see you soon.